To breaking news right now at 5, Bill Cosby now a free man. He was just appeared with his spokesperson and attorney outside of his suburban Philadelphia home. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned Cosby's conviction today. He drove out of prison just hours later. Elise Preston has the rest of the story for us. Take a listen.
After a stunning court reversal, Bill Cosby has been released from prison. Pennsylvania's highest court overturned the 83-year-old sexual assault conviction on a technicality.
This decision will be criticized far and wide, even though the lawyers would tell you it is a correct decision. He was not found not guilty. He was not now innocent. The High Court took a look without passion, without emotion, and it looked at the facts and it looked at the law.
Cosby was convicted in 2018 of drugging and molesting Temple University employee Andrea Constant at his suburban Philadelphia estate in 2004. But Pennsylvania Supreme Court says Cosby should never have been charged because a former district attorney made a deal with the comedian. In exchange for testimony in a civil case brought by Constant, Cosby would not face criminal charges.
Bill Cosby relied on that promise. He could not take the Fifth Amendment to say that he could incriminate himself because he was never going to be prosecuted.
Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years and vowed to serve his whole sentence rather than admit wrongdoing or remorse. At least 60 other women stepped forward with stories similar to Constant's. 5 testified at Cosby's highly publicized trial. The High Court said allowing that additional testimony tainted the jury, despite a lower court ruling that it was appropriate to show a pattern of abuse.
Bill Cosby will be forever tarnished with the fact that he was found guilty by a jury of 3 counts of sexual assault against Andrea Constant. He does not go back to being America's dad.
So far, prosecutors have not said whether they will appeal. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.